McDonald's doesn't make its money selling you a Big Mac. It sells you a Big Mac so that someone else can pay the rent. Because the most famous fast food company on earth isn't really in the fast food business. It is one of the largest real estate empires on the planet, and every burger it flips exists to feed that machine. This is the economics of owning a McDonald's, and why the person flipping those burgers is almost never the one getting rich. Here's the first thing nobody tells you. When you buy a McDonald's, you don't actually own a McDonald's. You own the right to run one for 20 years, on land and in a building that, most of the time, McDonald's owns and rents right back to you. You are not the boss. You are a very well-trained, very heavily invested tenant, and the company you're renting from is one of the sharpest landlords in history. So what does it cost to sit in that chair? A lot more than a milkshake. Opening a single traditional McDonald's runs between $1.5 and $2.7 million. There is a $45,000 franchise fee just to get in the door. And McDonald's won't even talk to you unless you have around $500,000 in cash you didn't borrow and a net worth north of $1 million. This is the first filter. McDonald's isn't looking for dreamers. It's looking for people with serious money on the line. Because the more you have at stake, the harder you will work to protect it. And you don't even get to pick your spot. McDonald's chooses the location, develops the real estate, and hands you the keys. You take the corner they built. That detail is the whole game, and we'll come back to it. Now say you're in. The drive-thru is packed, the money is pouring in. Where does it go? Before you pay for a single patty or a single employee, McDonald's takes its cut off the top, a 4% royalty on all your sales, another 4% for the National Marketing Fund, the ad money that keeps McDonald's famous. And then the big one, rent. Most franchisees hand over between 8 and 15% of every dollar they ring up, straight to McDonald's. Let's make that real. Picture a busy store doing $3.5 million a year. That's around $140,000 in royalties, another $140,000 into the ad fund, and anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 in rent. Close to $750,000 gone, before you've paid for a single fry, a single wage, or a single hour of electricity. And here is the genius of it. The rent is a percentage of your sales. So the better your restaurant does, the more rent you pay. You do the work. They share the upside. To understand why it's built this way, you have to go back to the beginning. McDonald's didn't start with Ray Kroc. It started with two brothers in San Bernardino, California, who built a burger stand so efficient it was almost a machine. Kroc was a 52-year-old milkshake mixer salesman who saw their operation, sensed something huge, and talked his way into selling franchises of it across the country. But in those early years, licensing the name barely made a dime. The fees were tiny, the margins razor thin, and Kroc was nearly broke. Then a quiet financial man named Harry Sonborn looked at the business and saw what Kroc had missed. His idea was simple, and it was ruthless. Don't just license the name, buy the land, own the building, and rent it to the franchisee. He built a company, Franchise Realty Corporation, to do exactly that. And Sonneborn said the quiet part out loud. He told a room of investors, "We are not technically in the food business. We are in the real estate business. The only reason we sell 15-cent hamburgers is that they are the greatest producer of revenue from which our tenants can pay us rent." That one sentence rewired everything. A struggling burger chain became a real estate juggernaut. Kroc eventually bought the brothers out entirely for $2.7 million, and the machines Sonneborn designed went on to swallow the world. Today, McDonald's owns the land under roughly 57% of its restaurants and about 80% of the buildings. Its property empire is worth tens of billions of dollars, and rent, not burgers, not even royalties, is the single biggest slice of what the corporation collects from its franchisees. In a recent year, rent alone made up nearly 2/3 of everything those franchisees paid the company. And the real estate does something even sneakier than produce rent. It hands McDonald's total control. Because the company owns the ground you stand on, it holds the ultimate leverage. Slip on standards, break the rules, refuse to remodel, and you don't just lose a license. You lose your lease. The landlord can take the building back. Owning the dirt is how McDonald's keeps 40,000 independent operators marching in perfect lockstep. And this is why the McDonald's Corporation is a money machine while its franchisees grind. When you run a restaurant, you carry everything. The food costs, the wages, the broken ice cream machine, the 2 a.m. worries. Your profit, after all of it, is thin. McDonald's, sitting up top as the landlord and the licensor, carries almost none of that. It just collects rent and royalties, which is why its franchise business runs at over 80% operating margins. A clean, predictable cut, whether your store has a record year or a catastrophe. And the costs never stop coming. The equipment alone, the grills, the fryers, the ice cream machines, the digital kiosks, can run well over $1 million, and it is all on you. When McDonald's decides it is time to remodel, you remodel on your dime, whether business is booming or barely breathing. That famously broken ice cream machine, you paid for it, you maintain it, and you can't even choose a different one. Because the control runs far deeper than the money. McDonald's sets your menu. It approves your prices. It tells you which suppliers you're allowed to buy from. You run someone else's system exactly as written, down to the second on the fry timer. And you pay them for the privilege. And the money doesn't only move through rent. From the day you sign, McDonald's shapes where nearly every dollar you spend goes. The build-out, the approved equipment vendors, the food suppliers, the packaging. You aren't just renting the building. You are plugged into a machine that, one way or another, profits from almost everything you buy to keep the doors open. And don't expect a protected kingdom. Your franchise comes with no guaranteed territory. If McDonald's decides the market can support another restaurant 2 miles down the road, it will build one, even if it splits your customers in half. Why wouldn't it? 2 stores mean 2 rent checks. Your sales might fall. The landlord's income only rises. So is owning one actually a bad deal? Not exactly, but it is nowhere near the passive goldmine people imagine. Talk to a real operator and the fantasy evaporates fast. The day starts before dawn and ends long after midnight. Managing teenagers and turnover, health inspectors and equipment failures, razor-thin food costs, and a corporate consultant grading your every move. Miss the standards and you get a warning. Miss them again and you get a letter. The burgers are simple. Keeping that restaurant profitable, spotless, and perfectly on brand every single hour is anything but. The average American McDonald's does around $3.5 million in sales a year. That number sounds enormous. But after the food, the labor, the rent, the royalties, and the marketing cut, the owner might keep somewhere between 6 and 10% of it. Real money, yes, but earned by running a demanding, low-margin machine, usually across several locations, for 20 years, under a company that can simply decline to renew you at the end. You didn't buy freedom. You bought a very good, very structured job, one that happened to come with a $1 to $2 million entry ticket. And this is why the franchisees who truly get rich almost never own just one. They own 5, 10, sometimes 50 restaurants. Running them like a portfolio and living off the combined margin, it can build serious wealth. But make no mistake, even the operator with 50 stores is still a tenant, 50 times over, writing 50 rent checks to the same landlord every month. And here's the irony that ties it all together. If what you actually wanted was the landlord's side of this deal, the rent, the royalties, the 80% margins with none of the 2 a.m. worries, you could just buy the stock. A single share of McDonald's makes you a tiny part owner of that entire real estate empire, quietly collecting a slice of every rent check on earth without ever touching a fryer. The passive way to own a McDonald's was never the restaurant. It was the company that owns the restaurant. And that is the part that stings. 95% of all McDonald's are run by franchisees. The people on the ground own almost nothing beneath their own feet. The corporation owns the dirt, collects the rent, and keeps the safest money in the entire system. A giant landlord wearing the costume of a burger stand. So who really owns a McDonald's? On paper, the franchisee. In reality, the landlord. The person flipping burgers pays for the building. The corporation owns it. The franchisee takes the risk. The corporation takes the rent. And every new restaurant that opens, anywhere on earth, makes the landlord a little richer. no matter how that single store performs. Worth owning? For the corporation, it is one of the greatest business models ever built. A 10 out of 10. For you, the franchisee, call it a 6. It can genuinely make you wealthy, but only if you treat it as a serious operation and stack up several locations. And even then, you will always be paying rent to the real winner. McDonald's was never selling hamburgers. It was selling you the privilege of paying its mortgage. I'm Mogul Math. Pick a business. We'll do the math.